Welcome to CII Super Procure Fireside Chat. We have a super achiever with us today who is able to manage a niche in decarbonizing logistics. He is from an industry that produces 8% of global carbon emissions. He is from a rare breed of professionals who can seamlessly switch between finance and logistics viewpoints. It's a great opportunity to listen to him today. Being a qualified chartered accountant, he is able to bring tons of value to the table. Let's welcome Mr. Saurabh Palsania, CII IL Elite Community Professional of CX4 Community, and he is the Joint President of Strategic Sourcing at Shree. What is green logistics? How does the industry understand?
So I'll say that green logistics refers to the strategies that the organization put in to bring down the carbon footprints. And when you compare it with the traditional logistics, somewhere traditional logistics does not take into account the ecological impact. Though economically, definitely it considers the economic impacts, but not ecological. While green logistics keeps the balance between ecology and the economic impact, and thus it starts working from the packaging to the delivery of the material and all these such levers which can bring down the carbon footprints.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Saurabh. That really puts the things in place. My next question will be, people talk a lot about green logistics maturity, and there are different levels of understanding both in India and outside India. So how do you really see the understanding or the level we are in terms of global scenario and specifically India?
In India, I will say that in comparison to the global standards, whether in terms of government policies, social progress, technological progress, as well as the financial competencies, India is at a stage of leapfrogging towards the adopting these strategies and policies. Like if you compare the government policies globally, you will find that there is a carbon emission tax, which in India presently we are looking for the carbon credits, and there are no standard policies for carbon tax as of now. Similarly, if you talk about the technology, definitely technology in India comes from China and European countries. Presently, we are more dependent on them in terms of bringing, whether it is EVs or LNGs. And in social awareness, definitely people across globally are more aware about the organic materials or green, adoption. And financial competencies is in European countries, you will find that there are green funds, SRI funds or Blackstone, promoting those funds and investing in green mutual funds. While in India, it's coming through the Gati Shakti or the national logistic policy now, and it's more dependent upon the subsidies than on the financial funds now.
Understand that you have deployed 40-ton EV in the logistics stream. What are the challenges that you have faced, and what are the lessons learned?
Anything which is done as the first time definitely comes up with something on the table. And when it's EVs, which is a new technology in India and it's also being brought in from European countries, there was no ecosystem to maintain it properly and to keep the uptime high. That was one of the challenges that we also face, keep the EVs running all the time. And another was that somehow the adaptability across the maybe on the roads as well as on the loading and unloading stations was slightly less, maybe because they were put on the same queue. There was no green channel for EVs. So those were things we learned, that yes, it has to be given a green channel as it runs on batteries and it has a limited duration to run. As once charged, you was running for maybe another 100 kilometers, 120 kilometers. So if it still stands still, then also it's running. because it's consuming battery. So those were the things that we highlighted to the OEMs also and to the service providers also, that somehow you have to build an ecosystem where the batteries and motor can be maintained, because ultimately the EVs are running on battery and motor and nothing else. So as the traditional vehicles which runs on engines and transmission lines and all. So that was a bigger challenge.
Brilliant. So when you're a chartered accountant qualified, and just imagine for a second like wearing the hat of a chartered accountant. So will you still suggest to bring the logistics? The reason why I'm asking this question is we are in the age of ROI. Everything is equated to that. Do you really see you can still win the ROI thing and get along with your green path?
That's a really good question. First I'll say that clean and green is sustainable and profitable too. And that was what we experienced when we were using a lot of alternate fuels now. Secondly, whenever you are progressing towards a new technology, you have to have a longer vision, where you see that carbon taxes and carbon credits are on the way. So whenever we have to value for an ROI, whenever we have to evaluate, we have to see that tomorrow we will be either earning out of carbon credits or we will be paying out for the carbon taxes. And putting the carbon taxes and credits into your calculation of payback and savings and all, that will definitely give you a walkthrough that yes, it's profitable. And that made us to take these steps towards EVs and LNGs, and definitely it's fruitful.
Brilliant. That's well said, Saurabh. And my next question is, when an Indian company is exploring options for alternate fuels in logistics, there may be different approaches to get along with that. Since you have already gone through this journey and you are seeing wonderful opportunities coming your way, how do you really see the way forward for the Indian companies?
So I'll suggest, with the experience that I had so far, and our organization also experienced it, and we foresee that this green logistics will always be profitable. I see it is evolving, so the delta between diesel and the alternate fuels will be increasing in coming years. Yes, it may be different for different organizations based on the local logistic network. Like for e-commerce industries, they have a volume in packaging and secondary freights, and they are very close to the customers. So that may prompt them to go for smaller EVs and maybe a retail logistic model. And for the industries like metal and cement industries or steel industries, we'll be looking forward for higher volumes and also for the secondary freights. But somehow the distance and running, say how much lead we are running before we are delivering the material, that will also matter. That will help us in deciding whether to go in for EVs or LNGs. The major role will be played by the ecosystem of battery installations, charging stations, as well as the LNG pumps. As soon as they will mature in the context of India, the movement towards EV LNGs will be 2x and 3x depending upon the infrastructure.
The cement industry, which is responsible for 8% of global carbon emissions. I'm sure we will have some interesting tips from Saurabh how to inspire the cement companies to explore green logistics. So over to Saurabh on his thoughts.
I'll just like to put in one word. When we say that cement industries are responsible for the 8% emissions, so I'll also say that it's easy to abate also sector, not very hard to abate. So it's possible to abate. Another point that EVs and LNGs will decarbonize the diesel consumption, you can say, majorly, and will also bring economies to the industry. So decarbonization, definitely EVs and LNG is a very important tool. Not only it will impact reduce the carbon footprints, but also will be helpful in reducing the logistic cost, which is somewhere around say 30% minimum of the total cost of production. So all in cement industries are taking steps towards green logistics, and we'll say that there are various models also to say adopt it. People having funds, they can go for a capex model. People not willing to invest can go with the OPEX model, and fortunately the all the stakeholders involved in green logistics are having those options. So it's more important to increase the speed of adoption, and I will definitely recommend that moving towards green logistics will not only help the organization to minimize its carbon footprints, but the cost of logistics also.
Well, sir, thank you very much. So there's a lot of talk in the industry, and I would say even debates, the stakeholder capitalism and the shareholder capitalism. It's not easy to get through and convince the shareholders to look for green initiatives, because it's always said that any green initiative in the initial stages comes at a cost. We have to have the tolerance to get over that. Then you see the wonderful world of the green environment. So what do you like? How do you really see this? How do you really manage this, the debate between the stakeholder and shareholder capitalism?
So just to repeat again, that clean and green is not only sustainable but profitable. So when it's profitable, it's both for the stakeholders and shareholders, taking part away from it. When I say shareholders, so you'll have to, I'd like to comment separately for the shareholders and stakeholders. So when we talk about shareholders, it's profit of the company that must sustain, and the company should be sustainable enough. This green logistics brings sustainability in a big way. Again, repeating that it's not only reducing the carbon footprints, but also reducing the cost of operations. And definitely, when we say stakeholders, it's very important to collaborate here because of the heavy cost of EVs and LNGs. So the collaboration begins when we are sharing the profits equally. Somehow, every stakeholder has to see that yes, he's sacrificing but earning. Now, there can be a model where three of these, all the stakeholders comes together and starts sharing the profits as well as the cost. And once the cost and profit is shared equally, you'll find that there is a solution, and there is a economical solution to green logistics.
Brilliant. Thank you. Collaboration is extremely essential for any green initiatives. We have seen many of the genuine initiatives have not progressed. Even you can take the example of the plastic waste recycling, which was taken up in the FMCG industry. There is an ecosystem of partners who are required to carry on and make it successful. And there is a cost involved, but more than that, there is a clear understanding, I would say a common understanding, that is certainly required. It's always said that if you want to go far, go together. That clearly says collaboration is definitely required. I'm going to ask Saurabh, how do you really manage the collaboration in your initiative?
Rightly raise the point. So whenever you do new things, you have to collaborate. Collaboration makes gives a clear picture to both the stakeholders and all the persons involved in that particular initiative, that what is happening with the other. And once you know that, you have to come out with the right solution for collaboration also, and for making it successful also. And this is what happened in the alternate fuels industry also, and similarly, you rightly said about plastics, and then also for the LNGs and EVs. Somehow, we need to understand what is the cost involved from both the sides, and what is their present cost of operations, and then find the right way to click the deal and to gain the benefits out of this, that particular transaction. And we have been seeing through it that if you have to take a step forward, first you have to take a backward step to understand the thing, and then start dealing and collaborating in such a way that the initiative becomes successful. And there is a lot of collaboration required in green logistics because of a lot of capital cost, high capital cost, high risk when it's LNG, because you don't know what will be the LNG prices in next month because of the geopolitical issues, and thus you have to somewhere give the right portion to the LNG service provider as well as also to the LNG equipment provider, and simultaneously also be transparent to share your cost such that it can become a win-win deal.
Brilliant. So it's always said that the one gets measured gets managed. This is very important. Measurement we have seen in all the corporates, we know that we have to have it in place. So in this green initiative, we have to create the awareness for the employees so that they really know what sort of impact or what sort of improvement they can really create in this entire episode. Some of the progressive organizations have come out with what they call it as the internal carbon fee. That's just for the organization to let know the employees how they are progressing in the green journey. Do you really see this as a great idea? If yes, what are the typical benefits you can derive out from it?
I'll say that this will be a very successful idea to be implemented. As one thing is that you come to know about what are the post-carbon footprints that you're not taking care of as of now, or you're not aware about. So it's an opportunity to know those carbon footprints and to dilute them or to bring them down. Secondly, when you are evaluating anything and you put in the carbon, the impact on the carbon footprints and how you will be able to reduce it and what is the cost of that you will be paying in future, then only you will find that your actions are becomes feasible also and then implementable also. So this will be a very good idea to be implemented across all the units, all the organizations which are trying to adopt green logistics or green initiatives, to value their every transaction or to evaluate every transactions with carbon footprints or the value carbon fees also. That will definitely help them to drive this goal in a faster mode.
How does a typical green logistics goal look like?
See, 2070 is what is being declared by the government of India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, to be net zero. And many of the companies have started declaring maybe 2040, 2050, 2060, maybe cement industries also, steel industries also, and many other FMCG industries also. What I foresee is that somewhere between 2050 to 2060, what it today looks like is achievable. I will suggest every company to come up with their rules so that it brings responsibility also and innovation also to achieve this.
There's a lot of talk in the industry about ESG, environment, social governance. There's also a lot of people who say that it is not so easy to achieve. So can we start looking in a direction where we start looking at E as emissions rather than environment? This will definitely help us to tell or look for to the industry how can they start moving in this direction and make it really possible.
That's a good idea. Once you start calling it emission, you have to measure it. And once you start measuring, your goals seems to be closer to you. And carbon emission, when we say net zero, it is carbons which are to be reduced, carbons emitted which are to be reduced. And thus, once we start measuring it, tracking it, we also start finding solutions to what presently we are emitting and where we want to go. So definitely a measurement is always helpful to achieve the goals.
Thank you very much, Saurabh, for taking your time off. These are wonderful insights and it will serve as a great inspiration for the industry to start traveling in green logistics. It's time for us to thank SuperProcure, the co-founders Manisha Sharaf and Anupam Agarwal, who have been supporting this initiative to spread the knowledge in supply chain.
Thanks Venkatesh and thanks Team SuperProcure, Manisha ji and Anupam ji. And I think this such talks, with the say various teams across various say performers across the globe will help everybody to say adopt it and implement it. Thank you.